Today we're going to be looking at choice of media. We've already mentioned the different kinds of above the line and below the line. And obviously in many cases, when we're doing a particular promotional technique, we are required to advertise it, a particular promotion. If we're doing special offers, etc., we have to publicize these. So what we're going to be doing, because this is applying these techniques, what we're going to be concentrating on today is looking at certain types of media that we would be using to promote these particular methods. One of the most important things that we have to look at in this, and we will be going into some detail, is the price, the actual cost of doing this. We've already mentioned that a lot of promotional techniques don't actually result in particularly maybe a greater deal of profit, because by its nature we're reducing price or offering something additional, and therefore that's obviously going to cut into our profits. Additional to that, obviously we have to publicize the promotion that we're doing, and that obviously is generating an additional cost. Now, we may have our standard advertising that we're doing wherever we're doing it, whether it be traditional with media or broadcast and online as well. But to do a particular promotion, which are usually in the short term, then this requires additional advertising. Therefore, what we're going to be looking at today is that question and what we have to do when we're actually promoting our own promotional method. If we have to look at the actual understanding of the value of a sales promotion, this obviously we're looking at the value to the company. So the motivation for sales promotion is to persuade a particular target audience to buy a particular product or service. Maybe more so of one particular group of products that we are selling, not necessarily everything that we're doing. So it's usually based over an inducement or an incentive to persuade the buyer to make a purchase decision swiftly. In other words, it's usually in many cases at the point of sale. So it's whereby they're going to pick our particular brand or our particular product over that of the competition because of the specific promotion that we're offering. Now, because of this, sales promotion aims to achieve results mainly work over a very short period of time. One of the actual disadvantages that we've sort of touched on, we'll go into more detail later, is offering promotions where something is discounted, especially if it's done over a longer period of time. It can reflect badly on the brand, because after all, it's doing a special offer to say that, well, for this period we're doing something else because we feel that you need to be incentivized, because maybe you don't feel it is of that value. But by doing this on a permanent method, it then means that the value, as far as the consumer is concerned, has dropped and has become the new low price. Therefore, after the promotion has ended and going back to an original price is not only going to be difficult, it's going to be very difficult for the consumer to accept that. Price is the determinant factor to offer the incentive, but there are also obviously other ways, offering something extra, something above what they were actually expecting to buy. So the chosen sales promotion techniques should be aimed at a specific target audience. In a direct consumer relationship, there can be no doubt that sales promotion increases the response and consumer trial. In all but a few cases, however, customer performance is reduced thereafter. In other words, they've come on board, that they've bought it because of a particular promotion, but these are not what we would call committed buyers. Therefore, their purchase decision is only indirectly related to the products itself. They are there for another reason. They are there because it's 2 for 1. They're getting twice as much as normal, and maybe twice as much as maybe buying from the competitor. So while the short-term sales figures may look very attractive, superficially, both strategies treat the sales same revenue. The hidden cost can also be considered. So not only must the increased sales costs of packaging, distribution, return handling calculated, but also the long-term effects on consumer perfection. In other words, they may perceive, because over a longer period, that the longer the promotion has gone on, that is the new value of that particular product. We have to calculate our return on investment of a sales promotion. Now, small businesses, it's very important to calculate the ROI. The sales promotion, in order to determine which campaigns or advertising mediums are more effective for the company and your bottom line. Larger companies generally do large, broad, multi-channel advertising on TV channels, and they're not really in a position to see how a particular promotion has affected sales of a specific product. And if you consider something, maybe it's done in a supermarket, it's very difficult for a supermarket with tens of thousands of products to know how many people have come in because of a specific product that maybe is on offer, or it's either a very low price or 2 for 1. So it may not have much of an effect. But smaller companies, we have to understand that when we're small companies, that maybe is a very large part of our revenue, our income. Therefore, we need to know if we are making money on doing that. If not, we should not be doing that particular sales promotion. We should be collecting data from our advertising. So during your sales campaign, regularly collect data on the promotion. For example, if it's an online campaign, record data on the number of daily impressions and clicks the campaign delivers. If it's a print campaign, get data on the circulation and distribution of the campaign. So before your sales promotion runs, target your advertising vehicle based on target audience profile and the sales goals that you wish to achieve. Once you've done that, analyze the results. Determine results of your sales promotion as they relate to your business. For sales promotion, the most obvious measure of return is revenue generated from the promotion, usually in terms of sales. So review your sales number to determine the amount of sales that resulted from your promotion. In order to get a more accurate view of how many sales were a direct result of the campaign, use trackable sales methods in your ad. In other words, somebody connects to a particular website or phone number. Therefore, if they're using that, you can directly track the number of sales that resulted from that specific channel. Once you know the amount of sales revenue that results from your promotion, determine your gross profits from those sales by subtracting the cost of the goods from your revenue. For example, if you sell a shirt for $10, but it costs you $3, when you sell 10 shirts, your revenue is $100, but your profit is $70. The measuring effect of sales promotion. Measuring the effect of a sales promotion is relatively easy, but requires careful analysis of sales data before and after the promotion. You will also need to keep track of what other marketing communication efforts and dollars your firm is undertaking at the same time as the sales promotion. Because sales promotion deal in intangible things such as redeeming coupons or cash refunds and rebates, you can count those and see how many sales were a result of those promotions. Next, compare those sales figures to those your company had before the promotion to see if the promotion resulted in an increase in sales. To understand the true effect of the promotion, keep other media expenditures and types the same during the promotion as before. That way, you're only measuring the effect of the sales promotion itself, not as a result of doing additional marketing or advertising that would normally have, hopefully anyway, have increased sales anyway, regardless of the promotion. We're now looking at the effectiveness versus the goals. Deciding whether your promotional campaign was effective depends on what goals were established. This varies by the established strategy at the start of the campaign. For example, if the goal of the campaign was to garner an increase in market share of 2 percentage points and the campaign needed 3, then the campaign was successful. But this also has to be examined in light of the cost. If the cost of the additional market share was well above the budget set aside for the promotional push, then maybe the campaign's effectiveness is not as good as you were expecting. We also have to look at the short and long-term impact. We've already mentioned that traditionally these things are designed for the short term. So an effective sales promotion may increase sales in the short term. Generally, there is no longer-term impact. For established brands, many customers will wait for the promotion to buy and take advantage of a lower price. And for many brands, most buyers were already familiar with the brand before the promotion. The promotion may have done little to attract new or to encourage brand switching. A good example of this, which I've mentioned before in other courses, is the case of Pampers, the nappy provider. I link this usually to a logistics question, but it does actually work, because what was happening, Pampers, the nappies for babies, was that over a period in a certain supermarket chain, that for 2 months there was a very stable purchase, and then every 3 months sales increased radically. So let's say, for example, on a monthly basis 100,000 units for 2 months, and then every 3 months 300,000 units were being sold. This confused people in terms of for logistics to actually ship to the store. But what the reason behind it was, they were doing a promotion. Because Pampers is an expensive brand and you can buy something cheaper, when there was a promotion, the promotion that they were doing was 2 for the price of 1. So the customer were already using that particular brand. In other words, the decision had already been made. So what they did every 3 months, when the promotion occurred, they bought up large amounts of the product and then obviously stored them at home. But there was no question that they would either go somewhere else if that promotion wasn't there. They probably would have continued buying the product at the higher price. Therefore, arguably, the promotion was not successful because the same people that would buy them were not new customers. It just meant the same customers were holding off to only buy them every 3 months and were only buying the product, or principally buying the product, when it was on discount for the 2 for the price of 1. Therefore, if they hadn't have offered the promotion, arguably, they would have had the same amount of sales, but at the full price, and therefore would have made much more money. It then may be considered that a large percentage of the regular buyers were actually changing their behavior over the long term, only buying when there was a promotion. So, in the long term, damaging effects for the company. We're going to be looking now at the actual media planning and buying, and to do this effectively. In other words, what is the things that we're actually looking for? How do we know where our money is being best spent? So it's not just a question of actually the cost of the media that we're involved in, but how to do this effectively. In other words, getting the biggest bang for the buck. The amount of exposure, the amount of views that we're seeing on something for the lowest possible price. Obviously, we're already aware that certain media has very high coverage. Things like television on certain channels. We're aware of this, that it's seen by millions or tens of millions of people. But how effective is it? If it's reaching all these people, that it's the right audience, then maybe that is the way to go and it's justified. However, if it isn't, then maybe it's not the place to go. If you think about it, most of the stuff that's advertised on television are more sort of generic and popular products for the mass audience. You don't tend to see very upmarket luxury products. If you're looking at an example of that, just look at the car industry. What brands of cars do you see advertised? Yes, you do see Mercedes and BMW and Ford and Peugeot, etc. But how many times have you seen an advertisement for Aston Martin, for Bugatti, for Lamborghini, for Ferrari on television? Why? Because that is not the most effective advertising medium for that kind of product. One of the things we're looking at is the reach of the media. In other words, the maximum possible people that we can actually reach. So the total audience, the maximum number of people that media covers. Now, in terms of television, the number of people who watch television at least once a week. Press, when it's printed, the number of people who read any publication at least once a week. Radio, the number of people who listen to radio once a week. Or cinema, the number of people who visit a cinema at least once per month. So just think about that in terms of yourself. How often do you watch television? For how long? What kind of publications do you buy? How often? And also, how many read that particular publication? Maybe you buy a particular magazine and everybody in the household reads it. What radio stations do you listen to? And how often? Cinema. How often do you go to the cinema? When we're talking of scheduling, it's how often your advert is going to be put out there. Now, it doesn't always necessarily, a continuous one is obviously the most obvious. If we're looking in terms of a newspaper, it means you would be putting that out all the time, every single day. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and so on. In other words, it's continuous. It's the same time every single day over a continuous period. But you may be offering a burst where you build up it to a certain days or a certain time over a period, coming up to Christmas. You start out the ads very slowly before Christmas and build up to eventually you're almost continuously over a short period, and then you slowly reduce them afterwards. Flighting, where you're putting them on some days and leaving others out. So maybe it only works at the weekend, so you advertise weekends and leave during the week out. And pulsing, where you have a regular advert going out at certain times and then additionally put other ads over and above that and then take those off. So you may have more than one ad running at the time and do more advertising on certain times and less on other times, but not go down to zero. If we're just looking at newspapers and magazines, the circulation, well, the definition of circulation is the number of copies each edition sells. For example, the Reader's Digest has a circulation of 58,000 copies. The readership, however, is the total number of adult readers for each title. And yes, in those cases, we don't tend to take into consideration children because they're not considered potential purchasers. So normally this is people, adult readers over, depending on the country, over 16 or 18. So in practice, in this case, the Reader's Digest, which we've already seen, has a circulation of 58,000, but on average, 8.5 people read each copy. So the readership obviously is 8.5 times 58,000, which is close to 500,000. So as you can see, there's a large difference. Now, this may not be the case in every one, but generally speaking, when you're placing adverts, it's very easy to ask them, and they usually have these figures available. They should at least have the circulation figures anyway. In many cases, they also have the readership figures. This may not come as a surprise, the unifying M factor. A couple of things that we're looking at. The first one, of course, money. So money, marketing, and the media that unites all of these. So these are the things we're going to be looking at next. Now that we've got sort of a particular idea in mind of running, say, a promotion, what we have to do now is look at 4 key questions. Where are we going to, to whom are we going to be advertising? In other words, who is our target market? What specific group of people are we after finding them? And then we have to look at where are these people? Where can we find them? Where can we put our adverts in front of them so that they will see them? So it's the actual marketing and the broad mix that we have. Then we have how much. How much are we actually going to spend on doing that? And obviously we have to, not just in terms of the actual printing of the advert, but it's not free to produce the ad in the first place, whether it be through graphic design, or you have to go to a studio, maybe for photographs, or you have to get a commercial film crew in to actually produce the advert. So how much money is available and how much do those things cost? That will obviously make a substantial difference into your plans. If you have a very small limited budget of a couple of €1,000, how far is that actually going to go? So this is going to link to how and when. How are we going to advertise it, and when? Are we going to do it continuously over a short period or small amounts over a longer period? What kind of media are we using based on the amount of money that we have? So if we're looking at the who for a start, the demographics. So the actual demographics of the people, the usual things of their age, their income level, where they are physically. Maybe the psychographics, in other words, in terms of what kind of lifestyle are we looking at? Are we looking at people of a certain lifestyle or something else? And the media graphics, where are they likely to be looking? What magazines, what newspapers, what online sites? Where are they likely to be? What kind of media is most appropriate to reach those particular demographics and psychographics? The where, well, you have the market prioritization. So salience, the salience of the actual market, what an actual percentage of that is contributing to the particular product that we're interested in offering them. The growth, the actual growth of that market, is an increasing market. Is it a particular market that is increasing, or is it a market that is reducing? What is the market-wise share of movements, the competitive factors? We obviously, in every case, we have to include what our competitors are doing and how we are being more competitive than those competitors. What is it that we're going to be able to offer that particular market? And the distribution, where are they distributed? Is it in particular countries, in particular cities? Is it particular areas? Where are our customers? We have to look at each medium. Every time we choose a specific medium, we have to understand that there's certain pros and cons of every type of medium. Some are better at certain things than others. Television, we're aware, obviously it's very very expensive, but it can be very it's an active and with no involvement in terms that the consumer has to do anything, but obviously it's audio visual, it's very active, and it can show emotion, and you get to be able to demonstrate your product. If your product requires particular demonstration on how to use it, what it is. There was a good example of this where maybe you wouldn't think of it, was when Nescafe first went into China. They obviously, to them, this was a new promotion going, that they were starting something, going into a whole new market. But obviously this became a sort of a long-term marketing strategy. But when they first went into it, we're aware that China is renowned for being a tea drinking company. And they put their adverts out showing people drinking coffee, local people, and an attractive young family drinking the coffee and enjoying it. And yet still nobody bought the product. It turns out that people didn't know how to make a cup of coffee. Therefore, the next time they did the advertising, what they had to show was the couple actually making the coffee, how much coffee they put in. Did they put sugar in there, put milk in, how hot was the water, and it actually showed them making it. And that could only be done in that kind of medium, really. Trying to show that in a print form or over the radio would be far more complicated. And of course, in terms of things like something that may be emotional in terms of selling a car, you want to use the emotion to show how interesting it is and exciting it is. Or something like perfume, even worse, it's very difficult to sell in other mediums. If you look at an advert for perfume, it's the ideal medium. It's television, almost the only one, because you can see the response of what the perfume brings. Press, well, high involvement. The difference is when we get anything that's printed, it gives us time to sit down and read the information. So we have to give a lot of detail about the cost of something, deposits, how much it is, what the interest payments are. Then we can sit down, we can see that, and we can take our time over it. If you'll remember the last time we saw a television advert where there were particular limits or restrictions either to the purchase, or if it was a promotion and only available in certain areas, that information flies by at the bottom usually, or it's in very small print, and the advert is up on the screen for a few seconds and then it's gone. Obviously an advert can last somewhere from 5-10 seconds to maybe a minute, but most adverts only last 20 seconds. So there's a lot of information to get across in 20 seconds. And if you miss that information, you have to wait for the advert to come around again. With the press, it's there, it's in front of you all the time. You can easily go back to it and check the information. Now, radio is very passive. And this requires, obviously, through sound, to be able to create something imaginative. You have to be very imaginative of this and create this the image of the product in the mind of the consumer. Cinema, again, similar to television in the sense that it's audio-visual. However, you've got more of an unadulterated attention. If you're in the cinema, you tend to be sat down. You're not exactly going up, walking around, making coffee or doing other things. Once you're in the cinema, you're pretty much there. With television, you have this facility. You can change channel, you can leave, you can do other things. Now, outdoor, again, it's transient, so it's a specific area. It requires you to walk past it, so it's requirement of that. Very good for announcements and things that are very local, because you can pick a specific area, and it would be things that only people in that area are likely to see. Now, the internet, of course, has certain advantages now as many of the others. We can have high involvement. We can see the information written down. We can have the emotion. We can show movement with videos on the internet. And the difference is really, it's very much one-to-one. It's that particular broadcast being broadcast from you to you at the time that you're looking at. It's not transmitted like television at a particular time to 2 or 3 million people. It's just you connecting to that particular site or that information, that advert at that time. Ideally, we would like to sort of mix things up. If you were aware of the advantages of each kind of media, the problem is sticking all your eggs in one basket. So why would we like a mix? Well, obviously this is going to extend the reach, the amount of people that we're reaching, or the particular maybe a group of people, beyond a single medium. So maybe that you're after different kinds of markets, because specifically maybe there's a specific market that watches one thing or another, and you don't want to only dedicate yourself to one particular market. It's not that you're restricting other people taking advantage of the advert for your particular promotion that you're running, but you want it to reach as many people as possible, and not everyone is in the same kind of market. Now, if you're going after two different target groups, as long as there is an actual difference in the target group. In other words, you may be going to young women of a certain age who are single and without children. Then you go to a slightly older group of people that are married and with children. But if there's no specific difference between their purchasing habits, they can be considered the same group. But if you're going after a particular group of, say, females of a certain age and then males of a different age, it's highly likely that they're going to be reading or seeing or looking at different mediums. Therefore, you would require to go to different media to reach the different groups of people, different strokes for different folks. Also, it means you can use different stimuli aid in making the communications more memorable. In other words, maybe some things you can show impact in, particularly in a good photograph, which is great to be on a photograph in a print ad, but maybe you need to show movement as well, then you would need to show that in a television advert. Now, these can be a multiplier. One will back up the other. You will get referencing to each other. You see a television advert and then you see something on a poster somewhere that will remind you of it. Or vice versa. You can see the poster of something that maybe you've remembered, then you go home, you look it up on the internet and you see more ads, and maybe you see an advert that's on YouTube. And if we want to create more impact, especially with either launching something, either a new product or a particular thing, a particular promotion that we're launching, then you get more impact because it's in more places and it's more memorable for people. Now, one of the things we have to do is to do some tracking of, in other words, getting some idea of how much that we're getting back from this. And we have to effectively work out the kind of trends that are going on, what it is that is happening, so that we can then compare different types of things with different media. Now, if we are doing spends across brands on a regular basis, for example, we need to spot key trends. Now, type of publications, what is the trend in which publications are becoming the most popular? How often, what are people generally doing? Are they looking at things that are on a daily basis or something like magazines? In other words, that's over a longer period of time. In other words, a magazine comes out and it's there for a month. Maybe doing color adverts or black and white. Seasonality, in other words, is something coming out or is more popular over a particular season. Maybe particular positions, the positioning of the product. English language or going into a different language in the foreign press. One of the things we have to decide in our initial goals is the amount of reach that we want to get. And of course, if we want to reach as many people as possible, and obviously we have a limited budget, then we can't do it as often as possible. So depending on our budget and our actual goals of what the idea is, do we want to reach more people or less people more often? If we have more people, maybe we can only send one advert. If you imagine that we sent one advert out to 1 million people, how effective would that be? It would reach more people, but it's just one ad. Maybe 99.999% would forget it. However, if we then push the same advert to 1,000 people, but we sent it out 100 times, oh, no, 1,000 times. Okay, we'll do it 100,000 people 10 times. It's still 1 million. So we do it 100,000 times, 100,000 for the reach, but 10 times. It's highly likely that those 100,000 would remember it much more than the million who had only seen it once. So arguably, the frequency is just as important. If you think about it, in many cases, if you've seen a particular advert, especially if it's something new, and you are coming out with something that they've not seen before with a particular promotion in mind, maybe the first time you see it, you either didn't notice it or you forgot it very quickly. The second time you see it, you then may have remembered it from the first time. And the third time, it concretes, it cements itself into your memory. By the fourth or fifth time, you are now very much aware of it and maybe more inclined to actually take up the offer that is being offered to you. So in this case, how much is enough? Do we do something is once enough, or do we need 10 times? Well, Krugman's 3 hit theory is the following. The first exposure, it's what is it? It's sort of a cognitive response. It screens out either things that you're automatically interested in or not, and maybe in a lot of cases it's our own filtering system may not even see it. The second exposure is what of it? In other words, we may have a more evaluative response. We actually see it and think, yeah, okay, but what is it? What about it? What is in it for me? So what? The third exposure then becomes the reminder. And obviously all subsequent exposures after that just become repeats of the last one. So it reinforces us. The first time it's just maybe to show us that something's there, but maybe we don't remember it. The second is, well, what's the benefit to me? And the third is where it just is reinforced for us to remember it. So it's repetition. Now, the next question, which we've already mentioned, obviously we've got to touch on this quite severely, is how much is enough? How much money is enough? Well, I suppose the answer, how much money would you like to spend? That's not likely to be what you will get. Now, we do have a particular problem here, because in many cases, if we're giving a particular promotion that's something that we're pushing at this particular time, what tends to happen is we will be given a budget to fulfill that. So the goals are already established, and then usually at the higher level, they will give us a particular budget to cover that. Unfortunately, this isn't really how it should be. The ideal situation is, what do you want us to achieve? Then we will tell you how much that will cost. In other words, somebody comes to you and they say, right, well, we have a promotion that we're pushing. We want to reach 1 million people in a certain target group. We would know where to reach that group, know what is the best medium, find the particular medium that will reach that number. They tell us how much they charge. We can't tell the television company how much to charge us. They will tell us to reach that amount of people on that day, time, whatever, is this much. In other words, it is dictated, the budget should be dictated by what the goals are to achieve them. However, in reality, unfortunately, this isn't what actually happens. We are given the budget. So we have to effectively, or we've got to set effective frequency targets and optimize those. In other words, the budget now is going to control our particular media selection. If we're given a large amount with maybe not a particular high number, then maybe we can go into something like television. If we don't have the budget for it, then obviously we can't. And we have to look at more effective advertising channels to get that message across. So, for example, defining objectives by target group or by the task. Now, the target group, in this case, we're looking at where we're selling a credit card for Citibank. So the target group, in this case, we have 2 men for the card, or the youth for a Valentine's Day. So they're particular target groups of things that we could be after. The task that we're after, maybe, to do this is a rapid reach build-up to induce a trial. So a large amount of people to get people to come in for a trial. Or a higher frequency at the threshold reach for repeat purchase. So it's more often to remind people to keep coming back. Instead of it being a particular brand or something we've seen in the past, we have maybe taken the trial, then we've forgotten about it. So we have to keep going back a higher frequency to remind people, where maybe the threshold reach for that is very limited. Because we're going very often, the threshold reach might be 100,000 or 200,000 or 50,000, but it's concentrating on that number of people to keep coming back and rebuying again and again. If we look at the actual print process, so in print progress, well, obviously we're looking at newspapers and magazines, etc. So first off, we start by defining the objectives. What is it that we're actually after achieving? How many people? What kind of message are we trying to get across? Now, in many cases, if we're printing something and it's in the terms of a voucher or something, then obviously the idea is to get how many vouchers we think we're going to get cut out and redeemed. If it's a particular promotion for a certain offer, how many people are going to come in for that specific offer? Once we have our particular objectives that we require, then we have to evaluate the vehicle that is going to be transporting that. In other words, the vehicle is going to be transporting that message to the consumer. So we have to then select that specific vehicle, either based on quantitative, in other words, the actual number of people that are going to be seeing it, or qualitative. In other words, it's going to show something that is the kind of quality kind of product that where we want to be seen to be. Then we have to do the plan iterations. In other words, work out the cost of each of those vehicles, divided that by the reach. Do we want to do this on a one-off where we can reach more people, but we can't do it too often because we're restricted by cost? Then maybe we want to reach less people, go more often to remind people more often. This will then produce a plan. So we have then what we are delivering, the products that we're delivering, the schedule of how this thing is going to be put out, so that we know that the vouchers are going to come in by a certain time. We're putting 100,000 out every week or every month. The television process obviously is a little different. First off, actually defining what the task is, what we actually want to achieve, because don't forget, this is an audio visual. It's a more creative process. So the task is to show a particular thing. Then we have the budget, because obviously we're controlled by the budget. The cost of these things is so prohibitive. And we're going to look shortly, certainly on television, of how much it costs to put one single advert in during, say, a particular primetime show. How much is enough? How much do we need? Again, ideally, we would be finding out what it is that we require and getting the budget that we require. In real life, this isn't what happens. We give them a particular budget because there's limits to what we can get in terms of budget for this kind of an advert that's just for a particular promotion. Because if we are doing the promotion and where we're cutting something down, either it's discounted or 2-for-1, we're making less profit on the actual item. Therefore, our budget is probably going to be quite restrictive. Now we still have to work out the objectives, decide that between how many people we want to reach and the frequency of the advert. Then we have to work out how do we get to that. And this is where, to do that, we have to do a selection of the kind of program. They have the television companies have numbers for every single program that they operate at every single time slot, how many people, generally speaking, are watching it. Therefore, we know our reach. They establish the price. Based on our budget, determines the frequency. Pretty much decided by other people. The amount of people that are seeing it, when and where, and limited by our budget. Once that, it then goes to the next stage. We're not finished yet. We've selected that. Now we have to work out our plan construction, the iterations again, between the reach and the cost, and produce our final plan. Again, scheduling. Once we've done the scheduling and the delivery, then we have to monitor it. How effective has it been? And then obviously work out after the plan, depending on what we've decided, depending on the schedule, is either change the schedule accordingly. I admit these numbers are a little bit out of date from 2015, but so even looking at these kind of prices that we can see here, which do tend to be astronomical, then just put on, say, a 10% premium of what they're probably worth now. Now, this is for a 30-second ad. In other words, one single 30-second advert. Now, these obviously are the top prices, the most expensive on broadcast television for advertisers, but it gives you some idea of how much you're looking at. If you're after a large reach, in other words, where there are millions of people looking in and you want to get your advert out there at that time, how much is it going to cost? Many times when I ask students to do presentations about doing certain kinds of publicity or advertising, that, oh, we're going to have an advert out 100 times a week for all year. That would just be so expensive, which is why if you just look at adverts on primetime television, what adverts come up, what companies are there on the programs, what are they offering? And it's in most cases, it's the big multinational, multi-billion dollar companies that are advertising. Why? Only they can afford to do it. This is why you will see companies like Volkswagen, Mercedes, Unilever, etc. The big companies are the ones that are on there. On Sunday Night Football with NBC as an example, one 30-second slot during Sunday Night Football, $603,000 for one 30-second slot. On Fox Channel, on Empire, $497,000. On CBS, Thursday Night Football, $464,000. The Big Bang Theory, a program I personally like, on CBS, $350,000 for a one 30-second slot that's been shown during The Big Bang Theory. On ABC, How to Get Away with Murder, 262,000. So the price is coming down. The Voice, again, quite popular. This on the Monday show on NBC, 240,000. Modern Family, one of the most popular sort of drama programs, comedy drama programs, 239,000. The Voice on Tuesday, 230,000. Scandal, and so on. So as you can see, these are incredibly expensive. So we've got here, this is where the sort of to buy the prime time most expensive 30-second slots. So those that are mentioned with Saturday Night Football, The Voice, American Idol, Big Bang Theory, etc. And you can see the prices that it costs for these things. Now, when we're looking at prices, again, for doing a particular advertising schedule, you have to consider there's much more than just the cost of the media. The things that we've been looking at so far, certainly on the television, was just the cost of the media. But there are other particular costs to set up, or there are other costs for the setup and the cost to actually continue it. So if we're looking at the TV advertising, which is the one we've just looked at, which was obviously American television, so US television, well, the actual processes that we have to do first is the design and the production of the advert. So that kind of cost for that, depending on the kind of thing you're doing, is somewhere between 60, 70,000 to millions. I mean, there's a top here of 8 million. But as you can see on some of the adverts that you've seen on television, some of those costs are guaranteed to be high. If you're employing specifically a very well-known actor or singer, they're not cheap. They charge literally millions to be able to do an advert, and the cost of that, they were making an advert near me recently for Renault cars, and they had 2 trucks, 2 camera crews, 2 crews setting up, 2 cameras set up in different angles, just so that they could show the car driving down. They then had an additional camera crew that was on the back of another truck that was filming the car as it was driving down the road. So 3 different camera crews just to produce a 30-second advert. And this would have taken all day to do, maybe more than one day, because depending on weather, etc. So even when they've done that, it's a very expensive just to produce the ad, and then you have the additional cost of the transmitting it. Then you have obviously the cost of the media, and then the agency particularly that is working on it. With a magazine, well, the average price to certainly do an international or nationwide magazine is about $250,000. We're talking for a page advert in this particular case, depending on where it is. If it's nearer the front, if it's just inside the cover, that can cost more. If it's a more popular magazine, again, more money. The inside front cover of what's the name of that popular fashion magazine, which I've forgotten now, but it's $500,000 for inside the front cover. And again, you still have the design of the advert to set up. So again, somewhere between $500,000 and $500,000 for that. National newspaper, well, obviously it's much less on newspapers, but even so, 120 maybe for a small ad, but it can still cost anywhere to design it from a few dollars to $1 million for a newspaper ad. If we're looking at direct mail, again, these are very popular, especially with certain types of short-term promotions that are being run, because you need to get the information out to a very limited area in a short period of time. And obviously it is actually delivering maybe the voucher to the person concerned, literally to their front door. Telemarketing, where you're phoning people up or doing search engine optimization. So looking at some of these, you can see that the design is somewhere between 50 and 7,000, and then $51 per order, because it's based on direct marketing. The costs are directly proportional to the person that's marketing them. Telemarketing, and I've actually been involved in this, of writing the scripts, somewhere between 1,000 and 5,000 just to actually produce the scripts. Then the cost of operating it, of having somebody actually there calling, can be an additional $7 to $70 an hour, or $35 to $60 per lead, depending on how you're paying for it. If you're having an agency do it for you, you will normally pay per lead. If you're doing it yourself, you will have somebody there employed at $7 to $70 an hour, depending on the qualification of the person doing the telephoning. Web configuration, again, normally once that's already done, that's free to actually operate over a period of time, but it can cost somewhere between $4,000 and $10,000 to actually get configured so that it's maximized. Then it can additionally cost on a monthly basis to actually operate that as an internet marketer. Pay-per-click, 5 cents to $3 per visitor, but again, to actually set it up can cost $4,000 to $10,000, and then the cost of clicks, you will have a particular budget that will operate over a certain period of time. And obviously we have other prices here, but it goes to show why so many of these promotions can finish up actually costing money and are not cost effective, because of the cost of advertising for the actual promotion that you're running. This generally is how much it would cost to reach 1,000 people. In other words, when I was already mentioning about how to work out the budget and working it backwards from what is actually required by the promotion to reach so many people, well, it's quite, by doing these, obviously there are approximate costs and each are specific to each particular channel or newspaper, but generally speaking, this gives you some kind of guideline. To reach 1,000 people via a newspaper will cost approximately $32. This means if you divide $32 by how much it costs to reach one person by 100, well, $32 divided by 100, 32 cents. So each customer will cost you 32 cents. If you want to reach 1 million, well, you will times that by 10,000. So 320,000. For magazines, 20. So again, it's coming down to radio, 8, cable TV, Google AdWords, LinkedIn, Facebook. Obviously, Facebook being by far the cheapest to reach 1,000 people at 25 cents. So the cost for an individual one is pretty negligible. But it gives you some idea of where to start your budgetary control. And have a quick look at promoting on social media. Obviously, this is becoming popular. Why? Because it's so cheap. So we'll just have a look at some details about running a particular contest on social media. If you're ready to launch your first media content on Twitter, Facebook, or Pinterest. Now, it's a great way to engage more with your customers and enhance your online profile. Now, there's nothing worse than having your competition just sink into obscurity. In other words, you put it out there and nobody turns up for the promotion. So this is a step-by-step guide to how to do that. First, pick your prize and entry method. If you want people to enter a contest, you need to have a great prize or various prizes. It could be related to your business. So upgrading your customer, although I've learned this can be a little not exactly inspiring, but you can also give people the first chance to try something new. Another approach is to partner with other people and offer a range of prizes by linking companies together. So the partnership approach has the advantage your partner will also help promote yours. So when it comes to choosing an entry method, remember this rule. The simpler it is to enter your contest and the places that you publicize it, the more likely is that more people will enter it. Yes, so if entering your contest is too complicated, then I'm afraid it will not work. Build a landing page for the contest, so make a splash. There are a few elements you need to get ready, such as an attention-grabbing title. Pick a name that's fun and make people want to share it. Good graphics for your content, so the title of your content is in an image of the prize. Clear details of how to enter, include dates of entry. There are a lot of restrictions. We did already mention those in a previous presentation about the rules and regulations, but make sure you follow those rules, especially with Facebook because they have more rules. Instructions of how to easily share the contest, so make it social. Bonus points if this helps them to win in some way, like getting an extra entry, and details of the prize, how the winner will be chosen and where those details are publicized, so they know that first off somebody has actually won, even if it's not them, but they know how to find it. And then of course the fine print, the small details like closing dates and any kind of limitations that you have on who can enter. Maybe it's only for people over 18, for example. Then promote the contest. So with the platform, contest type, landing page, all decided, promote the contest. So some methods to try that: create a Facebook ad, promote a wall update, or use Facebook events to promote your contest. Develop a tweet schedule for the weeks leading up to your Twitter contest deadline, increasing frequency as it gets closer. Why? Because people are forgetful. And then send out emails to your mailing list, encouraging them to forward it to a friend. Write about the contest on a blog, encourage others to do the same, which is another way of gaining extra entries. Create a contest button or badge and ask others to use it on their blog if they're entering the contest. And if it's a large contest, you've got sponsors, well, feature their badges and logos and encourage them to post about the contest. You can also ask them to promote the contest to their own lists. Be sure to offer links back to their site as a thank you. A link to your contest in your email signature. So it's another way of letting more people know about it without any additional effort. If your prize is large enough, like a car, then send out a press release. Nothing is more interesting than that you're offering a great product, like something like a car, and you'll find lots of people will be willing to print that information up for you. Create a pin for the contest and ask for repins, which could be the way to actually enter the contest in the first place. Add your contest to some of the sites that list and promote new contests. There's a lot of those sites out there, and they're useful, relatively up-to-date listings that are available here on Faith Bloggers and a blog of goodies. And don't forget about offline as well. If you're attending a network event or have an actual physical point of sale place, handing out flyers is another way of getting more interest in your contest, or even if you've got the information on your business cards to offer those out. Monitoring it. You need to know what you're trying to achieve. In other words, how many fans or followers you're trying to get. Build brand awareness if that's what it's for. Or you might have a broader goal of engaging with followers more. Deciding on this in advance will help you know what type of contest is best for you. Once you've got your goals, you need to monitor them to see if you're actually getting close to doing what it is you are hoping to do. So you can do that using hashtags and mentions on Twitter, looking at likes, and set up Google alerts, which looks for mentions of your company, your brand, or your contest. So beyond the prize giving, ideally your contest should have a clearly posted finish date, and entrants should know when they will receive the prize. Certainly when the last date is that they can enter, and where and how you will be promoting, giving that information out, so they know where to look for it, to know who has won, whether it's them or not. But it also shows, gives confidence to know that somebody, even if it's not them, has won it, and know that it's a real contest. So even when the contest is over, you can still use it for promotion. So for example, for someone who hasn't won, what you can then do, you can video the prize draw to make a bit more of excitement and show authenticity, to show that you really did give the prize. You can maybe, you can profile the winner on your blog, although to do this normally, you can make this as an entry requirement. So make sure you do this beforehand, because otherwise maybe that the person that has won the prize is not willing to give their permission for you to give their name out or any particular personal details about them. So normally I would always recommend that part of the actual process of before the prize, as a condition of entering the draw, is that they give permission for you to be able to profile the winner, and that they have to give a certain amount of detail, including permission to reprint their name and maybe a photograph, etc. And maybe even that you will actually have even a video of them getting the prize, especially if it's a big prize. If it isn't, at least it will have some basic details of the person that is winning it. And do a roundup of the best or most interesting of the entries. In other words, for example, if the requirement is a particular photograph, then the winning photograph is this one, and this is who won, who's a amateur filmmaker from Surrey in England or something, so you have that. But a roundup of those that didn't win, and these were the close contenders, then you can show and highlight the next 10 or 20 entries that were very much finalist and considered, but didn't actually make it to the best. So it's still another method of getting more interest and more publicity for the actual promotion that you are running by doing this. And then share those plans for a future contest. So this helps you, having had the experience of what you've done in the past, that you're able to learn from it and go ahead and do things better the next time. That is our class for today. So thank you. We'll be going into the next one very shortly.